All right, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a lot of news to cover on the show today. We're going to start with the news and the latest developments surrounding this ICE facility that was shot up by another sniper. People are dead, and we now have the casings that once again have engraved on them anti-ICE sentiment. The idea that the left, again, the violence that we're seeing is the feature of the movement. It's not the bug. It's not, it's not the anomaly. So we're going to talk about that. Also, we're going to talk about the FBI. Clayton Morris from Redacted put out a very interesting video saying that his sources are telling him that the FBI is about to wrap up its investigation into the murder of Charlie Kirk, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and how that's unacceptable. So we've got that, as well as this really interesting development out of the Justice Department. We've got one of Pam Bondi's, I guess her chief of staff is now resigning. At the same time, James O'Keefe is saying that they're going to break the internet today by, and he's referencing the DOJ. I'm wondering, are those two things connected? I don't know, but we're going to see. We've got that and much, much more here on the Millstone Report today. It starts right now. All right, folks, welcome to the show. Thanks again for being with us. I can't do the program without you watching every day, so we really do appreciate it. It's always great to be broadcasting over on X America News, and let's get right into it. We're going to get to the latest with this ICE shooting that took place. Actually, before we get to the latest, I want to talk about this, which is very interesting. Yesterday, Gavin Newsom went on Stephen Colbert's show, and he said this.
That's happening in the United States of America. Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing, no due process, no oversight, zero accountability, happening in the United States of America today. People ask, well, is authoritarianism, you're being hyperbolic? Bull, we're being hyperbolic. If you're a black and brown community, it's here in this country. And so I'm deeply proud that I had the privilege of signing the nation's first bill to address the issue of masking. Also to require you have simple identification, to your point. I mean, if some guy jumped out of an unmarked car in a van with a mask on, tried to grab me, I mean, by definition, you're going to push back. And so these are not just authoritarian tendencies. These are authoritarian actions by an authoritarian government. You saw what Stephen Miller said last week. This should put chills up spine. Called the Democratic Party an extremist organization, basically a terrorist organization, saying he's going after his enemies. You saw the tweet that Donald Trump sent out, Truth Social, basically telling Pam Bondi, I want these 3 people taken out. That's happening in the United States.
So is it an authoritarian government, or is it a law and order government? I would argue that when your country's been lawless for so long and you finally start enforcing the law, people like Gavin Newsom and other leftists are going to think that it's authoritarian when it's actually just the appropriate level of response for a lawless country. But Benny Johnson reminds us that Newsom last night on ICE, these are authoritarian actions. Just now, an ICE facility in Texas was shot up by a sniper. Here is, this was a clip that was posted about an hour ago.
I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence, to include here in North Texas, where back on July 4th, we saw a coordinated attack carried out against an immigration detention center in Alvarado, Texas. What I can also share with you is that early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature. Again, this is just the most recent example of this type of attack. This will be a whole of government response. There will be no resource not utilized to bring all those individuals who are responsible to bring them to justice and to hold them accountable. I can confirm at this time that the FBI...
Okay, so they think it's obviously politically motivated.
Guys?
Griff, we just heard from Todd Lyons. He said, hi, we had shots fired into the Dallas ICE office, into the ICE office, specifically into the Sallyport, as you were saying, Griff, area where detainees are brought in. 3 people have been shot and en route to the hospital.
So the director of the FBI, Kash Patel, he posted this about a little over an hour ago. He says, this morning, just before 7 a.m. local time, an individual fired multiple rounds at a Dallas, Texas ICE facility, killing one, wounding several others before taking his own life. FBI, DHS, ATF are on the ground with the Dallas PD and state authorities. While the investigation is ongoing, an initial review of the evidence shows an ideological motive behind this attack. See photo below. One of the unspent shell casings recovered was engraved with the phrase anti-ICE. More updates will be forthcoming. He says these despicable and politically motivated attacks against law enforcement are not a one-off. We are only miles from Prairieland, Texas, where just 2 months ago an individual ambushed a separate ICE facility targeting their officers. It has to end, and the FBI and our partners will lead these investigative efforts to see to it that those who target our law enforcement are pursued and brought to the fullest extent of justice. Thankfully, no law enforcement personnel were injured. Please pray for the injured and deceased. The left, ladies and gentlemen, is already trying to say that because there were detainees killed, presumably illegal immigrants were killed, that this guy was on the right. Once again, they are trying, just like they did with Tyler Robinson, they're trying desperately to say that this guy was a MAGA guy, which makes absolutely no sense. I mean, you're already deporting people. Well, why would you get up and shoot them? But there you see the photo. That is one of the unspent shell casings. Kash Patel says that was recovered, and you can see it right there. Clearly, it says anti-ICE on it. So, assuming that is all true, it looks like the motivations are clear, although, the investigation is ongoing. I think, yes, we can say that this was a leftist, that it's most likely, or it's apparent that this person was a leftist. And once again, violence is the feature. It is not the anomaly. It's not the bug in the system. It is the feature because they're losing, because their message has been rejected. Not only their woke sex religion, but their entire way of life, their entire concept of the nation state, the idea of borders, that a border is borders are racist and that sort of thing. It's been rejected by the American people, and they don't like being told no, and so they lash out in violence. I'm going to refresh this story to make sure we don't have an update. Yes, it looks like we've got another update. Yes, so this is from Zero Hedge. A sniper attack at a Dallas ICE facility left at least one migrant dead and several others wounded. According to the Daily Mail, the gunman identified as 29-year-old Joshua Yan opened fire around 0700 local time into the ICE building. ICE confirmed in a statement that Yan fired indiscriminately. So the shooter killed himself. He allegedly, what we're being told is he shot up the facility and then turned the gun on himself. FBI Director Kash Patel earlier said, we just read that part. We see the anti-ICE engravings. While not confirmed, ex-users have been digging through public records to profile Yan. Laura Loomer reporting that she did a background check on Joshua Yan, the ICE shooter in Dallas. Yan's profile picture from his now wiped Facebook page, per the background check results, reveal Antifa and communist imagery. The profile photo is of an armed communist with a hammer. Let's just go ahead and click on this and see where it takes us. She says, hammer and sickle. Okay, the text reads, glorious exposition, comrade. He also has a previous conviction for selling marijuana. Proof this was a leftist political violence against ICE officers. So other people are doing this as well, and they're finding out that this guy has Antifa imagery. So, yeah. The violence is the feature. So, that kind of, leads me to ask the question, who was asking it over here? Aaron McIntyre, we are facing a full-blown left-wing terror spree in the United States. If this is true, as we're being told, which we have no reason right now to suspect otherwise, that does appear to be the case. And again, the reaction is the same reaction. I'll be not quite the same, but when they assassinate Charlie Kirk, what is the right plead for? We plead. Obviously, we come together. Obviously, we had an emotional roller coaster, rage, grief, everything in between. But what we're asking for is for people that are in power to actually use the legal authority they have to secure the country. And President Trump saying, I'm now going to designate Antifa a terrorist organization. And everybody that's funding the radical ideology, it has got to go, right? The people mysteriously funding the pallets of bricks that we saw all throughout 2020 and the summer of love, the BLM, all of that stuff. It's got to be investigated, and people's got to go to jail. And again, you're not going to stop this until you start sending people to jail. Just like you're not going to stop illegal immigration or fix it until you actually start enforcing immigration laws and getting people who are here illegally to leave. This is about law and order versus chaos. It's interesting that in the good versus evil, paradigm, the evil is the chaos. The good is having a proper order to things. Now, I want to say something about the FBI in general. I certainly do not envy Kash Patel's position right now at all. Kash Patel did put out a post, I believe over the weekend on Sunday, identifying a lot of anomalies in the narrative that we're being fed over the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And he, talked about the different aspects of things that everybody on the internet has questions because, if the goal is to restore trust in the FBI, let me tell you something. Nobody trusts the FBI to get to the bottom of all of the intricacies of the Charlie Kirk assassin. We just don't. So much of the story still makes no sense at all. We still don't have a photo or a video of the guy actually holding the rifle in the prone position. Kash Patel, Kash Patel tweeted that, they had a guy in custody, then had to tweet, nope, that was the wrong guy. And then we have so many questions about George Zinn, this guy who immediately said, it was me. And apparently I found out last night that he pulled his pants down and started saying, it's me. And now people are diving into the history of George Zinn and his, witness statements around 9/11. But speaking of witness statements, shouldn't the FBI interview? And I seriously mean this. And this is what Clayton Morris says, and he makes some really good points. In a thorough investigation, wouldn't the FBI be interviewing every single person who was there? And I know you say, well, yeah, that was going to take a long time. Absolutely, it would take a long time. But where were you? What did you see? When did you see it? I mean, we're to believe this guy broke down the rifle and put it in a backpack that's too small to fit a broken down rifle and then reassembled the rifle and left it in the woods? No. Explain yourself. Explain those videos. And, and then on top of all that, we're told it's a 30-06 and you've got all of these military men as well as, people who have hunted their whole life that just do not buy that there's no exit wound. They don't buy that a 30 caliber would leave that kind of mark. They have to explain all of this, every bit of it. The text message thread doesn't make any sense. I've got Zoomers in my family. They immediately said that it was fake. Still don't have the timestamps of that text message exchange. I mean, what 20-year-old person uses the term vehicle or squad car? I mean, I guess the only person that I know that uses the word vehicle, maybe I use it, but I mean, I remember my father using the term vehicle when I was growing up. It just doesn't make sense. So much of there's still so many unanswered questions, and so that is why this post from Clayton Morris of Redacted that was posted on September 23rd, so it was posted yesterday. He says that he has a source that says that the FBI is about to announce they have concluded their investigation. They've got the guy, nothing to see here, no more investigation.
This is outrageous, and I'm pretty furious about it, but I did want to come in and report what I just learned from a high-level source. This is confirmed, by the way, at the highest levels, that this is about to happen. The FBI, according to my source, is about to wrap up their investigation into the assassination of Charlie Kirk. They're done. And they are set to announce that Tyler Robinson is the lone gunman. End of story. Move along. Nothing to see here. That is what the FBI is set to announce. Here we are just 7 days afterwards, and they are ready to come out and make this report. So nothing to see here. Move along. Don't question anything. All of you, Green Berets and sniper experts and ballistics experts that have so many questions about the trajectory of the bullet. Was it fired by a person on the roof? Doesn't look like it to you at all.
And I'm willing to kind of throw it off as coincidental because we already have our answer to kind of direction of the bullet. It's quite literally not possible to do what was done from a straight on shot. It doesn't happen. And I would say there's not two shooters. I would say there's a single shooter.
Don't ask questions. You're done.
He got hit at the base of the skull here, probably. Right, and so we're talking. This is
a clip of a viral video. You've got people who are military expert or they're people who are former military who are experts, and they know what they're talking about. They're making videos out there saying, "Look, guys, we're being gaslit. This just doesn't make any sense."
Hesitation. He didn't die from blood loss. He died instantly.
The FBI is about to tell you no more questions. Lone gunman, Tyler Robinson on the roof. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. 7 days? I mean, who knows exactly when they're going to make.
So maybe this is an older video because it's been more than 7 days. Maybe redacted, but now they're saying confirmed. I mean, they posted this yesterday. Confirmed FBI is about to wrap up. I don't know. I mean, because then you've got, and so this is the problem when we're going to get this bifurcated information, and it's going to be really frustrating. And we've got to demand accountability. When you have Kash Patel putting out there, on X, hey, we're going to continue to address, and the investigation goes on. You've got Dan Bongino saying, hey, look, no stone is going to be left unturned. Okay, great. These are our guys, right? Supposedly, these are our guys. And then it just seems like this is kind of a reoccurring theme. You say one thing, and then it's like immediately we get, basically, the balloon busts or whatever, and they come out and completely contradict themselves. I hope that's not what's about to happen. I'm just reporting it because I thought Clayton Morris had a lot of good things to say, poking holes in what we are being fed as the official narrative.
Make this announcement that they're done. It's coming. Kash Patel needs a victory after being so embarrassed in the early days, arresting individuals, letting them go, telling all of us that he caught them and then having to let them go, testifying before Congress the other day and making a fool of himself, telling the world that the FBI is now the most transparent organization that it's ever been. I mean, it's laughable. And he lied right to Congress. And then Thomas Massie has to call him out right to his face about lying to Congress? Okay, so 7 days. We're getting a wrap-up of this investigation. Tyler Robinson is the lone gunman. Thanks, FBI. May I remind you that January 6th, 4 years ago.
So regardless of what you thought about Kash Patel in his congressional hearing, there were actually some quite entertaining moments where Kash, called out Adam Schiff and things like that I thought were actually really good. But the reason that I'm playing this video for you is this January 6th comparison that he makes, okay? This is the whole point.
Is still not done. Technically, there are cases still open for the January 6th investigation. for the 1,500 people or 2,000 that entered the Capitol building. There were 3,000 people at Charlie Kirk's event.
The tent, so it would be in the camera. They just move.
What was that? God! He just got shot! Holy shit! Holy shit!
Look at all those people.
4 years later, you're still investigating January 6th, but in 7 days, you're done? You've taken police statements from everyone there. You've concluded without a shadow of a doubt it was this guy. He's your guy. Great. Then please release the other 10 seconds of video that you haven't released to us so far that shows him in a prone position on the rooftop firing this weapon. Because in your YouTube video, FBI, right in the FBI's YouTube video, it says clear as day, he shot and killed Charlie Kirk. You didn't know his name at the time, but you were certain this guy shot and killed Charlie Kirk, but yet in the video, we only see him running. You don't show us the beginning of the video at all. Where's the gun? Is that a gun that he's carrying off the roof? Others say no, it's simply a hoodie that he has in his hands. All they found was a screwdriver on the roof. And they conveniently found this bolt-action rifle in the woods. Great. Don't ask questions anymore. Forget the 10 seconds of missing video. You don't need to see him actually pull the trigger. We're done. Stop asking questions. He didn't have any help. He wasn't radicalized by some group anywhere. It was just him with a grudge. Oh, and by the way, new photos emerging of him going to McDonald's at 6:30 at night after.
So again, there are statements that have come out where they claim, the FBI claims, no, the investigation is ongoing. The investigation is going to continue. We're going to leave no stone unturned. So the question is, will they actually it would be a huge deal. It would be at this point, considering the narrative that we've been fed, it would be monumental if they came out and said, well, actually, there's a lot more to this story. Now, they claim they're going to run down the Discord. They claim they're going to run down the Discord people and everybody in coordination with it. But if they do all of that, if they tell us that they're going to do all of that, only to come back to us and say, well, nothing to see here. The original narrative is the one that's the truth, and yet they don't explain some of these are basic questions. We still don't have a video of this guy, Tyler Robinson, with the gun in hand. You don't even really need one, you really don't even need one with him pulling the trigger per se, although you would think there'd be video of that. Could we at least get one photo of the guy holding the weapon? Holding the weapon. And then there's basic questions of if you're going to ditch the weapon, why not ditch the weapon on the roof? Why take the weapon, we're told that we can't see in the video, and drop down and then plant it in the woods after you reassemble it? You're supposed to reassemble the weapon after you jump down from the roof? Again, if they don't answer these questions, you're looking at another JFK-level conspiracy theory. And the thing is, I think the American people are we're done with it. We're over it. We're not going to wait 50 years and wait on, Oliver Stone to make movies about what really happened. People want the truth now. And we're about to find out. We're about to find out if the FBI is actually something that is even a reformable organization. Is it an organization that can be reformed? Because if things keep going the way they are right now surrounding the assassination of Charlie Kirk, we will have our answer. And if it stays the way it is and we don't get explanations from this and they don't go to the public and explain every iota of detail as to how this happened, then the FBI is an irredeemable organization. And it should have been abolished when Trump got into a second term. And then they should have had people reapply, and called got a completely different name to the organization if we even needed them at all. I will remind you that in busting the giant telecommunications terroristic plot in New York City with all of these phone banks and, you know, everything that the Secret Service just uncovered, that wasn't the FBI. And as a matter of fact, conspicuously, very conspicuously, the FBI is not mentioned as being in part of that operation at all. That was an operation with the U.S. Secret Service, Tulsi Gabbard, and Homeland Security, and the New York PD. But they did not tell the FBI that they were about to bust this place. You got to ask the question, why? Why would Kristi Noem, why would Tulsi Gabbard not allow the nation's premier law enforcement organization to know, apparently, to know what was going on with this big bust? From what I have read, they were kept in the dark. Why? Why do you think that is? I think if they were kept in the dark, and that's what to my knowledge, that's what happened, they were kept in the dark because people don't trust the rank and file. They don't trust the FBI. And so this is very much, I mean, one of the things Clayton is right about here is this is very much a test for Kash Patel in terms of his credibility, but the organization's credibility. And I will just say, is it a reformable organization? I don't think so. And I think that's what we're going to find out if things continue to go their way. And you know what? If they don't, I'll happily eat crow. I will happily eat crow. 100%. So now moving on. By the way, I want to remind you about Red Vive Health and the great folks over at redvivehealth.org/Paul. Before we go any further and we get into this Tylenol crazy talk, folks, clinical strength red light panels can be yours. You've heard me talk about Red Vive Health now for most of this year. We started talking about them. I partnered with Red Vive about, I guess, in February of this year. And I appreciate the audience. I appreciate the response. I appreciate that you guys have bought these. This is technology that is absolutely incredible. Biophotomodulation. That's the scientific term of what you're doing. It's a biohack of your mitochondria and your cells. The healing power of red light is real. Not only is it anti-aging, but the near-infrared light in the red light panels penetrates deeper into your skin, your subcutaneous fat, your organs, your muscles, your bones, your tissues. And it does incredible things for energy levels. It does incredible things for chronic pain. And I want you to go to redvivehealth.org/Paul and check out all of the information they have and see if this is right for you or your family. I can tell you right now that Red Vive Health is now offering a 35% discount off of these panels when you use my name, Paul. You can call 844-RED-VIVE. That's 844-RED-VIVE, V-I-V-E. Mention my name, Paul, and you'll get 35% off. They have 0% financing available, 60-day money-back guarantee, or you can go to redvivehealth.org/Paul, and when you do, you'll immediately be prompted when you go to the site with a coupon that says you've been given a coupon for 35% off. Hit accept, and then start your shopping. redvivehealth.org/Paul or 844-RED-VIVE. We're going to take a quick break and hear from my good friend, Mike Lindell.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupted this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our spring percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Life can be pretty unpredictable, filled with good days and not so good days. And sometimes, the only difference between the two is your level of preparedness. The Jace case lets you be better prepared for whatever comes your way. It contains antibiotics and other prescription medications so that you aren't caught unprepared. With the Jace case, you are able to get your prescription medication before the unpredictable happens, allowing you to turn those not so good days into great ones. Go to jase.com now and get your own Jase case.
That's JASE.com. Use my name, Paul, P-A-U-L, to get a discount, save some money. Love the Jase case, love their products. So, liberal women are now poisoning themselves with Tylenol in an act of Trump derangement syndrome that, I mean, you think that Trump derangement syndrome can't get any worse. And then, in fact, it can. They are now protesting, and they're making videos of themselves downing Tylenol to own Donald Trump and Robert Kennedy. It's just crazy. Like, if Trump is for it, they will be against it. I mean, it really doesn't matter. Somebody posted Calvin Robinson, Father Calvin Robinson published, like, Trump should, tell everybody to not repent, and whatever you do not repent, do not go to church, do not seek the Lord's forgiveness, so that the leftist women would start to repent, go to church, and seek the Lord's forgiveness. A little bit of a reverse psychology there. But no, this is insane. Obviously, we covered it in great detail. RFK announcing, hey, there's a link between Tylenol and autism, and we can't recommend that you do this because this is one of the factors. And Liz Churchill here says, yeah, liberalism is truly a mental disorder. Here's just a kind of a mashup of the different videos that are out there. Here's me, a pregnant woman taking Tylenol because I believe in science and not someone who has no medical background. The other video says, me popping Tylenol while pregnant because WTF is the government going to do about it? What's the government going to do about it? And unfortunately for them, this old tweet from 2017 of March has now surfaced from Tylenol, from the Tylenol X account. In 2017, Tylenol said, quote, we actually don't recommend using any of our products while pregnant. Thank you for taking the time to voice your concerns. All of these liberal women who are taking Tylenol because our Health and Human Services Secretary is actually trying to protect the health, the public health of our country, don't know that Tylenol themselves in 2017 says, if you're pregnant, we don't recommend you taking our drug. What will Donald Trump do next that will cause the left to be for their own destruction? Do you realize, and we don't have this pulled up because we talked about this with Rob Spencer, my co-host of the Paul Harrell program, in the afternoon, but there's now a viral photo that's going around on the left on Instagram, and it says, autism doesn't need to be cured. Autism doesn't need a cure. Autism doesn't need to be cured. So because Donald Trump and RFK are trying to get to the bottom of autism and what's causing it, and again, I don't think they went far enough the other day, but I think things are coming. I think there's a great first step. Now the left is for autism. The progressives, the ones who are supposed to be for progress in advancing society, are now the regressives. Because it's Trump, they're now for autism, and they're now saying there doesn't need to be a cure for autism. Yeah, tell that to the moms and dads out there who have very difficult lives raising children with full-blown autism or any kind of autism on the spectrum. They would very much love a cure. But the left has got to take body positivity and fat-shaming rhetoric to its ultimate conclusion that there is no ideal state. Like, there's no ideal body weight. All body weights are healthy. Well, that's not true. That is just demonstrably false. And now they're looking at the people with autism and they're saying, how dare you even acknowledge there's something wrong with them? How dare we even try to do something to try to help them? What are you, a bigot? And that's not a straw man. That is not me straw manning the left. That's where they're at. Trump derangement syndrome is real. The White House took, oh, by the way, let's see here. There was another clip here. Hang on, is it down here? Okay. So this is the next step. This is the next medical link that's got to take place when it comes to Tylenol and autism. Is this somebody on Instagram? It looks like Dr. Mark Galili says, "I'll break it down from a medical doctor's standpoint who hears autism stories every day from parents. You give the shot with heavy metals. Child develops a fever. Mother freaks out and administers Tylenol. You deplete glutathione, impair the CYP450 enzyme in the liver, and the body can't rid the heavy metals from the shot. The metals stay in the brain. The immune system mounts an attack. Inflammation occurs in the glial cells and neurons, and then the end result is autism." So you basically inflame your brain, and so this is the next. Step, I think, in a connection that should be made, because there's plenty of people out there already making it online. And so we'll see. The White House capitalizing on Trump was right about everything by reposting and putting this caption here. Again, Tylenol in 2017, "We don't recommend using any of our products while pregnant." And then you've got the Reuters, all these old stories from 2013 and 2025. Or no, this is a comparison here. Look at this. 2013, Reuters, "Too much Tylenol in pregnancy could affect development." Now, in 2025, they say Trump links autism to Tylenol and vaccines, claims not backed by science. This is why I am in the raid news agencies phase of my career. Knowing full well it could be turned against us. It could be turned against us journalists on the right. These people, when they are actively deceiving, when they are actively engaging in this kind of nonsense, it's just, I just don't have any, at some point, Pat Caddell, the late Democrat pollster Pat Caddell, said the mainstream media is the enemy of the American people. He said this at the time when the media believed that it was a video that caused the Benghazi terrorist attack. And the media didn't ask one critical word about it, and they just let it all slide because Barack Obama. That's why. Susan Rice, a video. So they're brainwashing a lot of people, and now the left is being rejected. They know it, so they're turning violent. And the media they have a lot to answer for. I mean, they're much to blame. They have been putting this propaganda out that is total lies, and then people are reacting as if it's true, and they think, just like Gavin Newsom said at the top of the show, this is authoritarian. Enforcing our immigration laws is authoritarian. No, it's not. It's just law and order, and people need to, should be grateful for it. Real quick, a top advisor to Attorney General Pam Bondi has suddenly resigned from the Department of Justice. The guy's name is Chad Mazzell. The Last Refuge on X writes, Chad Mazzell was the guy working for Rod Rosenstein in the DOJ who wrote the Mueller scope memos, including all the expanded authorities. He writes, I've always been suspect of Chad Mazzell because the above defies honest explanation. If you accept the well-known intents of the Mueller phase of the operation, and he's written about it, he says, keep in mind all media reporting says that Chad Mazzell and Stephen Miller are good friends and allies. That is just an ancillary notation. Chad Mazzell was appointed, recommended by some advisors, as the guide that walked Pam Bondi through the nomination process. After successful confirmation, Chad Mazzell then remained around, becoming Pam Bondi's chief of staff. Given Bondi's lack of intellect, he writes, and strategic acumen, she was heavily depended on Mazzell. President Trump then mysteriously sends a message via Truth Social, seemingly frustrated at the lack of progress by the DOJ toward holding any of the bad lawfare actors accountable. 48 hours after President Trump's Truth Social message and subsequent statements about wasted time, Chad Mazzell is reported to be leaving the DOJ. The Last Refuge on X is just saying this is an interesting coincidence. And what is also an interesting coincidence is I refreshed James O'Keefe's Twitter page, X account. Still nothing new, but 20 hours ago, James O'Keefe posted, quote, "The Department of Justice should be about justice. Tomorrow, let's break the internet." One would wonder, and again, I am just a curious journalist, but one would wonder, does the departure of Chad Mazzell have anything to do with James O'Keefe's upcoming expose on the Department of Justice? Maybe. Won't be surprised if that's the case. Something to think about. And then we move on to what happened yesterday at the United Nations when an escalator suddenly stopped, and now we think it's on purpose because the New York Times reported that people at the United Nations had joked that they were going to stop the escalator. This was very disturbing. If you go back and you watch the footage, it was extremely disturbing. And that's why Cernovich says stopping the escalator on Trump, as the United Nations did today, can be only understood one way: a dry run on the next assassination attempt. When I first saw it, that's immediately what I thought. You have somebody affecting the direct, Rob was saying this on the show this afternoon, you have somebody that was affecting the movement of the President of the United States. By the way, where were the Secret Service when that happened? This, according to this one account, Hustle Female Dog, this is the exact moment the escalator was killed as President Trump and First Lady Melania stepped on. What do you see in their faces? Look at that face. I'm sorry, but that face to me from Melania is a face of fear. It's a face of, oh my gosh, are they about to take another shot at my husband? That's what I think it is. And if you go back and watch the video, man, they got to be on a knife's edge. And where were the Secret Service? Whoever stopped the escalator was controlling, inhibiting the movement of the POTUS. Where's the Secret Service? You know, if anything, it is just a massive vulnerability. A massive vulnerability. So, it's absolutely nuts. All right, so moving on, kind of our next phase of the show, I want to talk about what we saw on Sunday with the memorial. In the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, what we saw with the memorial. I talked a little bit about it on Monday. There's been a lot of smarter people to make sense of it, and how I'm encouraging this show, the people that listen to it, to earnestly pray for revival in America, to earnestly pray that what we are seeing with people coming to Christ in the wake of the assassination, what we're seeing with people going to church, people buying suits for the first time because they think they got to wear a suit to go to church. And by the way, wear your suit to church if that's what you want to do, 100%. I mean, you know, I wear a coat and tie to church most of the time. Pray that it's real. Pray that it continues to be real. Pray that it doesn't fizzle out. We're going to listen to Steve Deace's comments here in a minute because I think they're so good, and he says it so much better than I could say it. But one of the things he says is that what was evident on Sunday, there's a lot of stuff evident on Sunday at that memorial, but the movement is now bigger than Donald Trump. That what you saw on Sunday has now grown larger than Donald Trump's movement. And that's a good thing because it means it'll last. That it'll last. And I thought and still think I think that's exactly one of the things we saw. And the reason that is because people were making much of Christ. People were making much of the worship of God, and they were sharing the gospel. They were calling for repentance. They were talking about sin. They were talking about individual sin and the need for grace in order to stand before a holy God. And so is it any shock that that movement is now larger than MAGA, or is now almost kind of outgrown it in a way? No, because that's the ultimate truth that undergirds the entire cosmic universe. Josh Dawes, the greatest thing to come out of all of this will be the exorcism of third wayism from the American church. In this tweet, Megan Basham talks about, people like Russell Moore, people like Tim Keller. She says, if Moore and Keller were correct in their predictions, Charlie Kirk's brand of red-hatted proselytizing for both faith and conservative politics should have repelled college students and helped ensure the permanent irrelevance of Christianity in the next generation. Instead, that's exactly not what happened. The complete opposite of that happened. While we've been told, for so long that Jesus was neither left nor right, and yet we see people, we see people worshiping versus rioting. Jesus was neither left nor right, but then we see the contrast of how people react when a tragic event occurs. Here is Steve Deace from the Steve Deace Show, and I want to listen to as much of this as we can. I think perfectly nailing and reading the room. He's reading the room perfectly on what, in terms of the American church, where we've been and where we are at this moment, and who was right and who was wrong.
I have to tell you, I have a million thoughts through my head after watching that yesterday and watching Aaron's montage again just now. And we have gone through this mantra of revival or bust on this show for many years now. And if what we saw yesterday was not a mustard seed of revival, then at the very least, that was the Holy Spirit dipping his toe in the water to see if we were truly ready for it now, if that's what we truly wanted. It's quite possible when these final numbers come in, this will be the greatest singular gospel presentation in terms of volume of eyes and ears reached in human history. In our nation's history, there has never been a 5-6 hour proclamation of the gospel and the lordship and the kingship of Jesus Christ by name, with the rank of officials that were using their platforms to do so. They're even in our own providential history that we look back upon now a couple of centuries later and are envious of and wish we could return to. There's nothing that holds a candle to what occurred yesterday.
That is an incredible statement. He is saying, you go back and you read the Founding Fathers, or you read Abraham Lincoln's Thanksgiving Proclamation, or go read George Washington's Thanksgiving Proclamations, and go read what our officials have said in past. Again, he's right. We look back and we say, yes, we were a Christian nation. What happened? Go read the Founding Fathers, or go read the framers, or go read the people of that time, and we say that and he's saying what happened on Sunday with our leaders, the Secretary of War, the Secretary of State, the people in political movements, and I'm forgetting a lot of people, boldly proclaiming that Jesus Christ is the only way, boldly proclaiming the exclusionary claims of Christianity, which is Christ is everything. He's saying what we saw outdoes even our founders. That is an incredible claim.
Of all the parables that Christ told in the New Testament, few incensed the religious leaders more than the festival or the parable of the wedding banquet. And it's the story of a king, and the people have long been waiting for the wedding of his son, to the point they've kind of given up hope it's going to happen. And remember, at the time of Christ, the Jewish people had not heard from God for over 400 years.
So he's talking about, again, the parable. It's found in Matthew chapter 22, the parable of the wedding feast, Matthew chapter 22. So for those of you that want to go read that yourself, I would encourage you to do so. Back to this.
This is the period of time known as the silent years. It had been over 400 years since the people of Israel had heard from God. So Christ is tapping into that energy with this parable of a long-awaited event. The people had kind of given up hope it was ever going to happen. And then finally, the moment is now at hand. And the people that the event was originally supposed to be for and originally supposed to be held with are sent the invitations. But too much time has gone by. They can't be bothered. They've got other things, other priorities. And so the king does not say, well, because the people that were originally supposed to do this and the people that were originally supposed to come will not, I guess we'll just put the whole thing off. That is not what the king says. The king then says to his servant, throw open all the doors. If the people this was meant for do not want to come, then let everyone come. And they understood what Jesus was saying to them, that if you reject me, we're going to send apostles to the Gentiles. And the people you're convinced you're better than, you're holier than, we're going to send the word of God to them now. The American church over the last generation taught that cultural engagement of hot button issues actually drove people away from the church.
Yes,
and that
did.
the way to gain so-called seekers was to water things down, commercialize it, make the messages very shallow so anybody with a spiritual IQ up in the single digits could understand, and stay away from controversial subject matter. Sometimes this is referred to as seeker-friendlyism, the church growth movement. Sometimes you've heard this referred to as third wayism. Sometimes this is referred to as Big Eva. This is their way of doing things. And that there's really no amount of evil that could rise in the culture that would cause the church to directly confront it. And so there is a basic gospel preached in many of these churches. I know, I came out of them. That we are sinners and Christ alone can save us. But then it kind of just stops there. You know, in the New Testament, Peter says, by now you should have moved on to, you should be eating solid food, but I still have to feed you spiritual milk. Like, you're never weaned off your mother's breast in these churches. You never go to solid food, let alone able to cook your own. You just kind of stay shallow. And it's also, I could cynically point out, it's also always been interesting to me that the seekers, quote unquote, are always found in the wealthiest of suburbs, where people are very comfortable, do not want to be given confrontation, move to those areas to avoid it. Want to just come home, chillax, and be a sports bro or a wine mom. Funny how the seekers are always in those neighborhoods. And just cut a nice check with no demands. The church is not asked to do anything hard. Here's a nice check. Thanks for, filling my belly with a McSermon for 22 minutes. See you next week. We're out of here. No other demands are made the rest of the week. Funny how that's always where the seekers are. Have you noticed that? That's always where the seekers are. The people who can write the big checks and have the least amount of expectations for the church. Weird how that works. Anywho.
Wow.
This was the ecclesiology of the last generation of the church in America. And now we are awash and surrounded by more evil than any of us could possibly contemplate. And what Charlie Kirk's ultimate legacy is going to be, is he destroyed that mythology. And you saw that yesterday. And that it is actually when the church has an answer for the evil in our midst. When people feel hopeless, hey, the school's trying to medically kidnap my son, and make him a girl. Hey, my daughter just brought home this gay porn. She's in the first grade. Hey, there's a scamdemic and my company says I can't feed my family and go back to work unless I take an experimental injection that they don't think they have to show me the safety data to. That it's actually when the church stands in the gap against the darkness and shines a great light. That's the light shining in the darkness, and the darkness has not comprehended it. That is actually the ultimate, that's actually what finds, attracts, and converts the real seekers. Not the customers, but the seekers. Not the tithing units, but the seekers. And just as in that wedding banquet, where Jesus is telling a parable to his own people, his fellow Jews, if you reject me, there will be a wedding. I will have a bride of Christ, and it will either be Israel or it'll be the Gentiles. You are going to make that decision right now. In a way, I believe this is what has occurred to the American church. Yesterday was the end of all your furrowed brows and all your pieties. It was over. God pronounced it over. If you cannot see now that this is the remnant, this is the movement, and I will tell you, I was invited to join it right at the beginning. Before almost all of the names that spoke up there other than the president himself spoke, I was invited to join this, and I did not see it. I thought, well, come on, nothing good comes from Nazareth. That's why I recognize what is happening here, because I fell for this myself. If you cannot now still see that this is clearly, I didn't say it was perfect people, it never is, because there aren't any. And I didn't say we're not going to still have internal doctrinal and ideological debates. In fact, I'll have a piece later today at the Blaze about one I'm having right now with a certain federal judge that has no business being appointed, particularly at this kind of hour. But we will, and we must have those debates. But if you cannot see now, then you are a Pharisee and you are the idolater, because it is very clear that even though he is transcendent, the Holy Spirit gave an extra portion and serving to Glendale, Arizona yesterday. It is clear. In fact, you saw something else yesterday. You saw this movement outgrow Donald Trump yesterday. It's bigger than him now, and it will outlive him. That's what you saw yesterday. It's bigger than Charlie, and it already has outlived him and made him immortal. And God has said to the American church, you wanted your book sales, you wanted your Hawaiian shirts, you wanted your sweater vests, you wanted your brand building. You may have your reward in full. I'm over here now. The idea that, I think God said yesterday, the idea that I was just going to let all this evil continue to happen and not have an answer to it. I gave you your shot. You went to the convent of the Sisters of the Perpetually Furrowed Browed Pensian School of Christianity instead. And that's when you just weren't peddling your wares.
Mike Pence.
For your love gift this month.
Pensian.
You may have it. Here's your carcass. Rule your kingdom. But my kingdom is over here now. And my sheep, Jesus says, hear my voice. This is the fields we are to be at work in. We will have arguments, we will have debates, but this is the field where the Father is at work. And as good children, we should want to work the same fields as our Father. I don't think I have ever voted harder for anything in my life than what America got to see yesterday. And just to demonstrate this, all throughout the scriptures, you see two trends when God moves. Judgment begins in the house of God first. Messiah goes to the Jews first and says, repent and be baptized before he goes to the world. So before we go out and confront the outer forces of darkness, the church has to get smaller before it gets better. And there's a lot of people in our churches that are tithing units and they're not with us. They went out with us, but they're not with us. They're not of us. You're watching the master gardener now. He is pruning. COVID was the first pruner. Charlie's assassination is the next. And there will be more. There will be more prunings. Because we've got to get smaller before we get stronger. Too many false converts. Too many wine mom Karens. Too many passive men who just want to be family sperm donors and no more. Too many. They have to go. You're watching Gideon's fleece get thrown out. That's too many men. That's too many men. That's too many men. That's still too many. That's about right.
Good.
That was the first 300, by the way, not Thermopylae. Second, God uses the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. He always tends to judge his people when they have become complacent, cowardly, or they are collaborators with the spirit of the age. He tends to use the things they're the most snobbish about to judge them. Foreign armies, uncircumcised pagans were used to punish God's people in the Old Testament. That which we typically think we're better than to justify our own idolatry and betrayal are the very idols things and God will use to judge us with. And so people that much of the church thought they were better than, more pious than, couldn't be bothered, couldn't answer the phone, couldn't be counted upon when the darkness knocked on the door. That is exactly where God now will plant his flag to shame the ones that were supposed to be doing this all along. That fits the pattern. That those with ears to hear, let them hear.
So what I think about, I mean, like I said, the reason I played the whole thing is because he just says it a lot better than I can. So I figure I would just go to the source. But I just remember hearing of the sermons where, Obergefell happens and gay marriage is now the law of the land. The Supreme Court, gay marriage is the law of the land. Everyone's outraged. Christians everywhere are outraged because they know what the Bible says. Even Christians who are in churches with woke pastors are outraged. And then we get lectured about how, you really shouldn't be as outraged as you are because you're making an idol, or you could be making an idol out of the American family. You could be making an idol out of the biblical family. So don't be so upset about it. And all of that served to do was to, allow the people in power at the churches to not have to talk or make a stand because they don't want to offend anybody. And then practically what it did was neutered the congregants who might have been thinking about doing something about this, who might have been thinking about more civic engagement. The church that Steve Deace is generally describing in the past generation was the church that it would have been as if the church of William Wilberforce's day had told William Wilberforce, hey, you're making an idol out of politics. You're really obsessed over ending slavery in the United Kingdom. Like you're really... you need to tamp it down, right? I mean, this is not a gospel issue, and you're really making too much of it. Can you imagine if the church that William Wilberforce attended had done that? Not just to him, but had basically it's a form of spiritual gaslighting. That the evil that we see and experience, or we get drugged through the mud from one Sunday to another Sunday because what happened is just something that we have to ignore. Don't worry about it. When in reality, the the worry or the anger or the hatred that we have for sin, for our own sin and for the evil acts of others, could very well drive us to being productive and righteous action in our world, in all of our spheres of influence, in the face of the evil that is spreading lies and is brainwashing our neighbors and putting them on a path to hell. That's what Steve Deace is talking about here. That's what has happened in many of America's churches in the last generation. And I pray he is right. I pray that this is the mustard seed of a revival where, yes, we still have some theological disagreements here or there or some whatever, but that this is just a way the Lord will use to call people, call his sheep. They hear his voice. And that when that happens, it really will change things very, very quickly. It's already changing very, very quickly. If you just look around, it's pretty incredible what's going on in a lot of different areas. So be encouraged and also acknowledge where we've been and where we are now. And just be, I don't know, like this is, I'm just anticipating great things. I really am. Folks, I'm going to be here in 3 hours with my co-host, Rob Spencer, for the Paul Harrell program. I'm sure we'll have more information concerning the shooting, the ICE facility that was shot, the shooter and everything else. I know they're trying to expose a lot of his leftist history and that sort of thing. So I'm sure we'll have more about his social media, even though it's being scrubbed, when we take to the airwaves here in 3 hours. Make sure that you tune in. Also, don't forget to go to paultalkshow.substack.com if you want to become a paid subscriber to what I'm doing here at Millstone, what I do in the afternoon. And when you become a paid subscriber monthly or yearly, I will send you a copy of Left Wing Will and The Red Pill, the game that laughs at the left's expense. God bless everybody. We'll see you next time.
The very foundation of the Christian faith is based